The email came from my cousin Jennifer. Subject line: Wilson Family Reunion, July 15th. I opened it, expecting an invitation, maybe a request to bring a side dish or help with planning. Instead, I got this. Hi everyone! Just finalizing the head count for the reunion at the lake house. We have 47 people confirmed. Can't wait to see you all. Please Venmo me $50 per family to cover food and activities. Attached was a detailed schedule. Friday night bonfire, Saturday boat rentals and barbecue, Sunday morning brunch before everyone headed home. I scrolled down to the guest list. Every single member of my extended family was listed. My parents, my 3 siblings, all my aunts and uncles, every cousin, even second cousins I barely knew. Except me. My name wasn't there. Neither was Chris or our 2 kids. I read the email 3 times, thinking I'd missed something, that maybe we were in a separate category or mentioned elsewhere. We weren't. 47 people, 3 generations of the Wilson family, and we were the only ones excluded? I called my sister Rebecca. She answered on the 3rd ring. Hey, did you get Jennifer's email about the reunion? Oh, yeah. Listen, I'm kind of busy right now. Why aren't we invited? Silence. Rebecca? It's complicated, Nat. I don't think... Look, I didn't make the decision, okay? This was a family vote. A family vote to exclude me? It's not personal. It's just... Everyone thought it would be better this way. After everything. After everything? After what? I have to go. I'm sorry. Click. She hung up on me. I sat there holding my phone, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. My own family had voted to exclude me from a reunion, and apparently everyone knew except me. That's when I decided that if they wanted to play dirty, I'd show them exactly what dirty looked like, because I was about to discover that my perfect, judgmental family had been hiding something that would destroy them if it ever came out, and I was going to be the one to expose it.
Let me give you context on my family, because you need to understand the dynamics here. The Wilson family is old money, not billionaire old money, but comfortable old money. My great-grandfather made a fortune in manufacturing, built a company that's been passed down through generations. My father, Robert Wilson, is currently the CEO. His 2 brothers, Uncle James and Uncle Frank, work there too. The company employs about 200 people and generates maybe $20 million a year in revenue. Growing up, we lived in a 6-bedroom house in an exclusive neighborhood. Private schools, country club memberships, summer homes, the whole upper-class package. But there were rules, expectations, standards. Wilson family members were expected to be successful, to marry well, to maintain the family image, to work for the family company or at least in respectable professions, law, medicine, finance. My older brother David, Harvard MBA, married to a corporate lawyer, works as CFO of the family company, golden child. My sister Rebecca, married to a hedge fund manager, stays home with her 3 kids, perfect housewife. My younger brother Marcus, doctor, married to another doctor, respectable if not quite as impressive as David. And then there was me. I went to state school instead of an Ivy League, became a journalist instead of joining the family business, married Chris, who's a high school history teacher, not a lawyer or businessman. I could feel my parents' disapproval from day one. A teacher? My mother said when I introduced Chris. That's nice, dear. Journalism? My father said when I told him my major. Is that really a career? Have you thought about something more stable? But I loved my work, loved Chris, loved the life we built, modest but happy. My family, though, they treated me like the family failure, the disappointment, the one who didn't live up to the Wilson name. Still, I showed up to family events, smiled through the condescending comments, let them make their little jokes about my quaint little house and Chris's humble profession, because they were still my family, right? Naive. Apparently not. After Rebecca hung up on me, I called my mother. "Hi, sweetheart," she answered, cheerful, like nothing was wrong. "Mom, why wasn't I invited to the family reunion?" "Oh." Her tone shifted immediately. "You saw the email." "Yeah, I saw it. I saw that the entire family is going except for me, Chris, and the kids. Want to explain that?" "Natalie, it's not personal. Stop saying that. How is excluding me from a family event not personal?" My mother sighed, exhausted. "The family felt it would be awkward given your recent article." My recent article. 3 months ago, I'd published an investigative piece on corruption in local manufacturing companies that were cutting corners on safety regulations, paying off inspectors, putting workers at risk for profit. It had won me a regional journalism award. I was proud of it. What does my article have to do with a family reunion? You mentioned the Wilson Company, Natalie. I mentioned 20 companies, and I didn't say anything that wasn't public record. You embarrassed us, made it sound like we're criminals. Your father was furious. I reported facts. If Dad's embarrassed, maybe he should look at his own practices instead of blaming me for doing my job. This is exactly why you weren't invited. You're always causing drama, always making everything about you and your principles instead of thinking about the family. I felt like she'd slapped me. So, you all decided to punish me by excluding me? We decided it would be better for everyone if this reunion was just the people who support the family, who understand loyalty. I am loyal. I'm your daughter. You're a journalist who threw us under the bus for a byline. That's not... Mom, please. I have to go, Natalie. Maybe next year if things calm down. She hung up. I sat there in my kitchen, shaking with anger and hurt and disbelief. My family had decided I was the enemy because I'd done my job, because I'd reported the truth. They wanted loyalty over integrity, silence over honesty. Well, they were about to learn what happens when you push someone with investigative skills and nothing left to lose. I spent the next week in full journalist mode. If my family wanted to accuse me of embarrassing them, fine. I'd find out what they really were hiding. Because people don't get this defensive over a simple mention in an article unless there's something bigger going on. I started with public records, business filings, safety inspection reports, financial disclosures. The Wilson Company manufactured industrial equipment, supposedly ran a clean operation, but my article had mentioned them in passing because they'd had 3 OSHA violations in the past 2 years. Nothing major, but worth noting. I dug deeper. Employment records, workers' compensation claims, lawsuit filings. And that's when I found it. A wrongful death lawsuit? Filed 8 months ago. Settled out of court. Sealed records. A worker named Miguel Torres had died in an accident at the Wilson Company factory. Machinery malfunction. The family sued, claiming negligence. The case was settled for an undisclosed amount with a strict NDA. I tracked down Miguel's widow, Rosa Torres. She agreed to meet me at a coffee shop, eyes red from crying that never seemed to stop. They paid us money, she said quietly, broken, to keep quiet. My lawyer said it was the best we could do, that we'd never win in court because they'd bury us in legal fees. "What happened to your husband?" I asked, gently. The safety guards on one of the machines weren't working. Miguel reported it 3 times.
His supervisor told him to stop complaining and do his job. Then the machine... Pause. Traumatic. She couldn't finish. "I'm so sorry," I said, sincerely. The company knew. The managers knew. They just didn't want to spend the money to fix it. And now my husband is dead, and they bought my silence with blood money. She slid a folder across the table. "I signed an NDA, but you didn't. These are copies of everything. The maintenance reports, the complaint emails from Miguel, the inspection records showing they falsified safety checks. Everything. Why are you giving this to me?" "Because someone should know the truth. And because I looked you up. Your family owns that company. Maybe you're different from them. Maybe you'll actually do something." I took the folder with shaking hands. This was bigger than a family reunion snub. This was criminal negligence, possible manslaughter. And my family, my father, my uncles, my perfect brother, David, they'd covered it up. My perfect, respectable, judgmental family were accessories to a man's death. And they'd excluded me from the family reunion because I'd embarrassed them with a mild mention in an article. The hypocrisy was stunning. I called Chris into my home office and showed him everything. "What are you going to do?" he asked carefully. "I'm going to write the story, expose everything, and I'm going to make sure Miguel Torres's death means something. Your family will never forgive you. They already don't. At least this way, I'll deserve it." Chris squeezed my shoulder. Supportive. "Then let's do it right." But before I published anything, I decided to do something petty, something that would hurt them more than any article. I decided to show up to the family reunion anyway. July 15th, I packed up Chris and the kids and drove 3 hours to the lake house. It's technically owned by a family trust, meaning I have as much right to be there as anyone else. We arrived at 3 p.m., right in the middle of their barbecue. I walked through the gate carrying a pasta salad, my kids running ahead to the dock, Chris beside me. The entire family froze. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Burgers sat forgotten on grills. 47 people staring at me like I was a ghost. "Hi, everyone," I said brightly. "Sorry we're late. Traffic was awful." My mother's face went white. Horrified. My father turned red. Furious. Jennifer, who'd sent the email, actually gasped, appalled. "Natalie," my father's voice was low and dangerous, "you weren't invited." "Oh, I know. I got Jennifer's email. Noticed our names weren't on the list. Figured it was an oversight." It wasn't an oversight. David stepped forward, confrontational. "You're not welcome here." "Really? Because last I checked, this property is owned by the Wilson Family Trust, and I'm a Wilson, so technically, I have as much right to be here as you do. After what you did," Uncle James started. "After what I did?" I looked around at all of them. "You mean after I did my job as a journalist? After I reported facts about workplace safety violations?" "You embarrassed this family," my father shouted. "Did I? Or did you embarrass yourselves?" Silence. "What's that supposed to mean?" Rebecca asked nervously. I smiled. "I've been doing some more investigating. Found some interesting information about Miguel Torres. Remember him?" The color drained from my father's face. Uncle James and David exchanged panicked looks. "Who's Miguel Torres?" one of my cousins asked, confused. "A man who died because the Wilson Company chose profits over safety. A man whose death was covered up with a settlement and an NDA. A man whose family is still grieving while you all enjoy your lake house and your barbecues." "You don't know what you're talking about," David said, but his voice was shaking. "Don't I?" I pulled out my phone. I have his maintenance requests, emails showing management knew about the faulty equipment, inspection reports that were falsified, settlement agreements signed by Dad, Uncle James, and you, David. My mother made a sound like a wounded animal. I also have interviews with 12 former employees who are willing to testify about ongoing safety violations, about pressure to cut corners, about a culture of negligence. Where did you get that information? My father demanded. I'm a journalist. It's what I do. And unlike some people, I actually care about the truth. This is blackmail, Uncle James shouted. No, I said quietly. Blackmail would be if I threatened to publish this unless you paid me. I'm not doing that. I'm going to publish this story regardless. I just wanted you all to know first. Professional courtesy. Chaos erupted. People shouting, my mother crying, cousins demanding explanations, kids confused and scared. I took Chris's hand and started walking back to our car. Natalie, wait! Rebecca ran after me, desperate. Please, don't do this. You'll destroy the family. The family destroyed itself, I said, turning back to look at her. When they chose money over a man's life. When they covered it up. When they excluded me for doing my job while they were literally getting away with negligence. What about us? What about the cousins who had nothing to do with this? What about the employees who lose their jobs if the company goes under? That stopped me. She was right. There were innocent people who would be hurt by this story. Employees who needed their paychecks, family members who weren't part of the cover-up. I'll think about it, I said finally. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, Chris and the kids waiting patiently while I processed everything. The journalist in me wanted to publish, wanted justice for Miguel Torres, wanted accountability. But the human in me thought about the collateral damage, the workers who'd lose jobs, the cousins who'd be humiliated, the family legacy, however tarnished, that would be destroyed. My phone rang. It was my father. What do you want? He asked, defeated. I want justice for Miguel Torres's family. I want real safety reforms at the company, and I want an apology. An apology for what? For excluding me, for treating me like I'm the problem when you're the ones who covered up a man's death, for making me feel like the family failure when I'm the only one with any integrity. Silence. If we do those things, will you kill the story? He asked. I thought about it, really thought about it. No, I said finally, but I'll delay it. Give you time to voluntarily disclose everything to OSHA, to make it right with the Torres family beyond just money, and to implement real safety changes. If you do that, my story will be about a company that made mistakes but took responsibility. If you don't, that's extortion, he said. No, that's giving you a chance to do the right thing, something you should have done 8 months ago. You have 2 weeks. I hung up. My father called me 3 days later. We're going to do it, he said quietly, resigned. All of it. We've hired an independent safety consultant. We're voluntarily reporting to OSHA, and we're setting up a foundation in Miguel Torres's name for workplace safety advocacy. And the apology? I'm sorry. His voice cracked. Emotional. You were right. About everything. We were wrong to exclude you. Wrong to prioritize reputation over responsibility. Wrong to make you feel like you weren't a valued member of this family. I didn't say anything. You know, you've always had more integrity than the rest of us combined. And instead of being proud of you, we punished you for that. I'm ashamed of that. I'm ashamed of myself. Thank you, I said, quietly. Will you come to dinner? Next Sunday, just you, Chris, and the kids? Let us start over? I'll think about it. 2 weeks later, the Wilson Company issued a public statement. They disclosed the Miguel Torres incident, took full responsibility, announced comprehensive safety reforms, established the foundation, paid the Torres family an additional settlement with no NDA. I wrote the story. But I wrote it fairly, documented the negligence, yes, but also documented the steps they were taking to make it right, the accountability, the reform. Former Wilson Company employee dies in preventable accident. Company takes responsibility and implements major safety overhaul. It wasn't the takedown piece my editor expected, but it was the truth. And sometimes the truth is more complicated than just heroes and villains. I did go to that family dinner. It was awkward. Stilted conversations, long silences, my kids unsure of their grandparents. But it was a start. My mother apologized. Rebecca apologized. Even David, who'd always treated me like an inferior, admitted he'd been wrong. You held us accountable, he said. You could have destroyed us, but you gave us a chance to do better. That took more strength than just exposing us would have. The family reunion the following summer? I got an invitation. A real one, hand-delivered by my father, who drove 3 hours to personally ask me to come. We want you there, Natalie. All of you. You're part of this family. The best part, honestly. I went. It wasn't perfect. There was still tension, still unspoken resentment from some family members who blamed me for the company scandal. But I don't care anymore. Because I'd learned something important. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect, support, showing up for each other even when it's hard. And if your family can't do that, then maybe they're not really family at all. The Wilson Company survived the scandal, implemented real changes, hired a new safety director, became, ironically, a model for workplace safety in the industry. Miguel Torres' widow, Rosa, became the spokesperson for the foundation, used her experience to help other families affected by workplace accidents. You gave him a legacy, she told me once, made his death mean something. Thank you. I cried, because that's all I'd wanted, to make it mean something. My career? The story won me a National Journalism Award, job offers from major publications, recognition in my field. But the thing I'm most proud of? Standing up to my family, refusing to be silenced, using my skills not for revenge, but for justice. My father retired last year. David took over as CEO, and one of the first things he did was hire an independent ethics board to oversee company decisions. I learned from you that doing the right thing, even when it's hard, is what actually matters. Not profit, not reputation, just doing right. You know what's interesting about family? We're taught that blood is supposed to mean loyalty, that you're supposed to stand by your family no matter what. But what about when your family is wrong? What about when staying loyal means compromising your integrity, your values, your sense of what's right? I was excluded from a family reunion because I told the truth, because I did my job with integrity instead of protecting people who didn't deserve protection. And for a while, that hurt more than anything, feeling like the family failure, the outcast, the disappointment. But then I realized something. Being excluded from a group that values reputation over human life, that's not a punishment. That's a blessing. Don't let anyone make you feel small for standing up for what's right. Not your family, not your friends, not anyone. The people who matter, the ones who truly deserve your loyalty, they'll respect you more for having principles than for blindly following along. And if they don't, if they punish you for doing the right thing, then maybe they're not your people after all. It took me a long time to understand that, to stop seeking approval from people who didn't value the things I valued. But once I did, I was finally free. Thank you for listening to this story. If you've ever been made to feel like the black sheep for standing up for what's right, drop a comment. You're not alone, and you're not wrong. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to compromise who you are, even for family. This is Revenge Diaries, where the best revenge isn't destruction, it's staying true to yourself. See you next time.